We're now going to transition over to the conference as such with the beginning of our panels. We have 9 panels coming up over the course of the next 3 days. We also have industry expert presentations that are coming in between. If you're not already aware, we have an exhibition just down the steps around the corner. There's an exhibition of the amazing technology that is being placed into these efforts to not only remove munitions, but to also protect critical infrastructure, as we've mentioned. A really interesting program. If you haven't already seen it, you can find it, of course, on the website, and maybe you picked it up when you came in, so you know what's ahead of you over the next 3 days. I'm not going to waste much time giving you an overview of what we're going to be doing because we're running a bit late. We're about 15 minutes behind schedule, I believe. So we're going to need to try to pick up some time so we hit all the points on time. I would like to begin our first panel by welcoming the speakers onto the stage so we can get this underway if everyone is with us. I already see we have one gentleman standing up. We have with us, I'll just introduce them very quickly as they're coming to the stage. You can take your seats. These 3, I'll sit right here. We have with us already on stage, Dr. Wolfgang Sichermann from Seascape. He is the CEO. He'll tell us more about that, I'm sure. We also have with us Axel Rasch coming on stage now from ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems. I understand they just established that name about a week ago. He is head of product management, next generation. And also a very familiar face from last time, Dieter Guldin from SeaTerra. He is the chief operating officer. Gentlemen, thank you all. Please be seated. And I'll just say a couple of words about what we're talking about, and then we'll get into it. Each of our speakers is going to give a presentation, a brief presentation, opening remarks, and then we're going to get straight into some discussion here on stage, and then we're going to bring you in as well. All of you sitting in this room, will be able to ask questions as well. So we're talking here in our first panel about scaling up lessons from Germany's first pilot program for global munitions clearance. So we're talking about a pilot program. We heard a little bit about it already this morning from Minister Goldschmidt. He mentioned the Lübecker Bucht, which I actually go on a family retreat in that bay, the Bay of Lübeck, once a year. So I'm very happy to know that is getting cleaner by the day. But we're going to look at lessons that have been learned from Germany's pilot program in terms of munitions clearance and what we've learned from that, the outcomes, the key challenges that remain, and above all, the transferable lessons that we've got for that and how they can be scaled up for global use. Without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Axel Rasch. No, sorry, Wolfgang Sichermann first. There you are. Sorry, wherever you'd like to be. Yeah.
Just to skip here. Can I get the image on the screen, please?
So we can see his presentation here on stage, but we're just trying to get it up on the screen for you. There we go.
There we are. Now I spoiled it. Okay, let's start with the second page. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you a short overview on the already mentioned program of the German government. It's called the remediation program. I would like to tell you what is it about, what we have achieved right now, and of course, what is up to come. The main objective, so I didn't do anything, there we are again, is really to get started with the remediation of munitions very close to our shores, with today's technology. So it's not an R&D project, but of course it's a lot about innovation. So we use today's technology and transfer it to a new context, exploring and salvaging of ammunition directly in the ammunition dumps, as well as also transferring disposal technology, which has been proven on shore, to the application at sea. Apart from that also, we have learned, and it will be necessary also to have clarification of legal and regulatory framework, which is supporting the program. And although it's called the Munitions in the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, we have agreed to focus on hotspots in the Baltic Sea for two reasons. One is the threat to the environment is much more present in the Baltic due to hydrological constraints and conditions in the Baltic Sea on one hand side. On the other hand side, of course, the weather and sea state environments are less harsh than in the North Sea, so that we are able to prove and set to work technology there and further to promote to the next step to the North Sea. As already mentioned, the program has been set up in 2022 by the decision of the German Parliament, and actually today it's ongoing and funded until end of 2027. As I said, the intention is to prepare for an industrial scale cleaning and disposing, and therefore we need to make the proof that the complete process chain from starting the exploration to the identification and recovery, to bringing to the sea surface shore, and also to disassemble for larger ammunition types and to dispose by incineration at sea. Since we do this primarily for environmental reasons, of course, we have to guarantee the safety for man and environment on the same level. And we set up this project, as I said, it's about innovation in an approach to mitigate the risk during project execution. This means particularly with respect to financial limiting capacities and also the time schedule. And for this reason, we come up with the following project approach. So the central aim is to design, and construct, build the first industrial plant to dispose munitions at sea. But this major string will be supported by two pilot projects where we learn what are the conditions in dumping areas which are very close to sea, what are the conditions of the ammunition, and what has to be done to create a more or less continuous flow of ammunition to be fed to the incineration or the disposal plant. And for that reason, in the last year we started the first pilot with the purpose to gain knowledge on how does the munition look like, particularly in the dumping sites. How can we do identification when you have really high density of ammunition of various types close together? Are today's technology mature to tackle those issues? What are key performance parameters or measurable parameters with respect to efficiency and scalability? And not at least providing the prerequisites for the next steps in order to, dispose the munitions at sea. As I said, we started this last year, and with a very, let's say a large group of experts from the administration, from fisheries, from scientists, from the EODs of the German Bundesländer. We set up a test case with 4 sites, which we find in the Lübeck Bay, with various difficulties. You see some on the west side, site 1 to 3, which were tackled last year, and we're up to now to tackle site 4 in the central part of the bay this year. And they've been chosen for various reasons, so that we see different dumping patterns. From the upper left-hand side, a very homogeneous, to be assumed very homogeneous set of dropped boxes over larger boxes with individual warheads to very complex conglomerates of munitions, as you see in the center below, with large warheads in combination with other grenades, etc. And what we're looking at today is also, this year, is also special maybe to dump ammunition, that you find munition in shipwrecks. In this case, it's a sonar image of a capsized barge which was used or assumably used to dump the munition, but however it capsized, whether by intent or by accident, who knows. And most of the ammunition you can see on that kind of a pile in the center in the lower center of this picture, where we expect a very high degree of degeneration. So there we expect just explosives, so the shells are partly totally corroded, and a various mix of infantry and artillery ammunitions. To keep it short, what has been achieved so far, talking about the pilots we have conducted last year. So generally you can say the technology which has been applied is well suited, but however it requires adaptation with respect to guarantee a continuous and of course an increased mass flow. We also learned that already also for the Baltic Sea we need more extensive preliminary investigations on the conditions, meaning the seabed soil, but also what will be expected there. I think another of the speakers will give some more insights on the findings there. We also learned that approval processes are different than what we have experienced in usual cleanings for infrastructure reasons, that when we do this for environmental reasons, and I think we will get deeper in this into the discussion, the legislation regimes are different, so there are a lot of to be learned in the first pilot this year, and also this year we have applied a more early approach to try to involve all stakeholders in the process to get at least the approval of the authorities to carry out those measures. Again, we see a wide spread of conditions of the ammunition, from like dropped yesterday and up to the situation where the shells are totally corroded. Another thing what was quite important is that, of course, we were curious, what will the remediation process do to the environment, and therefore an environment monitoring has been done prior, during and after the remediation, and the results turned out that no significant increase of explosive compounds was found, and also as long as you start with recovering munition which is on the sea floor, you also don't have much of sediment plumes around your site. The last point brings me to the next and pre-last slide. It's the outlook, of course, what will be done with the munitions when we look how it looks like, what we have to expect. Those are crucial parameters to bring those in the disposal process. So on the left-hand side is more or less what we have done last year, the recovery and storage and underneath the sea, on the seabed, and wet storage containers. So for the next step, for the industrial process and a plan to be developed, those munitions will be provided for the first tests. And the idea is, and the tender has been out since last year, to have the first mobile facility which is able to disassemble and incinerate the munitions at sea, avoiding additional transport to land and finding disposal capacities or building up disposal capacities at land. As I said, the tender has started last fall. It's a two-phase project. Right now, the first quotations have been evaluated. The negotiations are still ongoing. When the contract is awarded, we will go in a so-called definition phase with the contractor to set up the detailed system specification. This has to fulfill some requirements given also by policy. This means the maximum price and also a minimum capacity or capability of the project. When this is fulfilled, we will go in the construction of the plant, and from today's perspective, we look at some 18 months of realization time. So far, this will be an overview on the program, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Axel Rasch from TKMS.
I'm waiting on the screen. Yeah, thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to address TKMS pitch on this panel to present our approach of an industrial solution to remove munition from the seabed. So Wolfgang Sichermann addressed already the process change. We have it here in another design. I think you will heard it in a different or slightly different way during the whole conference. The main aspects are you have to do the surveying, to check the measurements, sorting of munition. You will have a wet storage to clear the munition regarding to the munition types, and then to salvage the munition for the disposal. So the basics for our design was that we want to use available technology, simple and robust design, and a flexibility process for mostly all of munitions what we can find. Also addressing big munition items. And one point what's really important from the beginning was the scalability, to show a solution what's capable of addressing the whole problem of 1.6 million tons of munition. There are two, actually, give me a second, please. Whoa. Is it possible to start? Okay. To address two major topics of our industrial solution. The first thing is that we like to introduce a standard pallet, because we think and believe that the interface between the salvage and the disposal is necessary, like the invention of the ISO containers during logistics. So we need a clear interface between the sorting of munition and the definition of wet storage. So it's a different approach what was addressed during the first piloting. We know that, but at the end of the day, we like to use this pallet also for the first cutting of the munition types to prepare during the deliberation the munition for the burning. We like to use also the pallet for all logistics on board of the platform. So the pallet is capable to carry also other objects. So what you see also on the video was that there's a whole pattern that you prepare the pallet for the different types of munition, and then you are able to handle the munition on the pallet during the complete disposal process. So it's not just in design, it's already built. What you can see here, we tested it in the water in the Baltic Sea. And we bring that also to the Kiel Munition Clearance Week. You can see it outside, and if there are questions, so we will answer them. But what are the key figures of our concept? So we address a floating platform so that we like to dispose the munition where it is at sea. And we like to introduce in the project also the combination of robotics and water cutting, because we think that's the only way to be future safe, to address different types of munitions and different types of geometrical objects. So, and we think that this solution with a slightly bigger platform is scalable also in two steps. One step on the platform to use two deliberation chambers and one combustion or a burning system for the munition, and to have the space and the room to scale up on the same platform, so that there's an option for the future to learn during the first years of running the platform. I could come to an end, but I don't like. I like to address also some maybe critical points at the KMCW because our company stood here 4 years ago. And we think that there's a lot of knowledge available, not just in Germany, international-wise. So we know that there is munition, a lot of munition at the sea, and we have a lot of technologies available over the whole process chain. A lot of companies spent R&D programs funded. Also the university are looking for that. So it's not an issue to a problem what's already existed. So, and if we looking to some expectations to the actual program, I found I used a slide from 2007. So the insights know that it's much longer. So we are talking about that topic nearly 20 years. And we heard it this morning, so that we have no time, the shells corroding and all that stuff. So, and the speed is, from our perspective at the moment, quite slow. So it started in 21, so roughly 20 years later, so that there are coming new solutions so to address the problem. And then all of us thought in 23 with the last government, okay, now there is a budget and we can address a lot of topics. And that's one of the first slides from Seascape to address that point. It's not just the schedule, what you can see here. It's also the parallel achievement of the industrial solution and also about the pilot one. So it was in parallel. Now we are going separately in 2 steps, and maybe we can discuss that on the panel later on as well. So what we see from our perspective is completely focused on technology. That's good, that's for innovation. But from an industrial perspective, it's necessary to address a market, so to create a market which is not existing at the moment. So there are 2 comments from the past and from the actual government agreement. So it's not just a question of funding, it's a question of how the framework is able to create. So how can a business case be created so that companies investing more in technology. So, and I'd like to close the short pitch with a comment here from Mr. Watson. So about market sizes, and what we see so far is that the framework conditions are not be set until now.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're beginning to get a clearer picture now, which we're going to finish out in this panel at least with Dieter Guldin from SeaTerra, who's going to give us another perspective on where we are and where all of this might go, what we might learn from what we've done so far.
Yeah, just a word up front on the organization team. There's a speaker in this screen, yeah, so which we have an echo up here all the time, which is really a pain. Annoying, yeah, so that should be for every other panel later on, yeah, should be changed possibly, yeah. Yeah, so the first practical phase of the emergency program for unexploded ordnance in North Sea and Baltic Sea, SeaTerra, took place here. And so I will give some short insights into SeaTerra's clearance approach and some clearance results. But just a word up front, and it's really funny to look at, or to, you know, I mean, if we listen to the Minister of Environment, Mr. Goldschmidt, and if we listen to Axel, then I came up with the same idea. Yeah? So everybody comes up with the same idea, obviously. Yeah? So looking backwards for what happens in the last years, yeah, I just summed up some political things, yeah, and some things which happened in order to speed up the process and to make, you know, aware about dumped ammunition on the sea. And I see many persons in the room which participated on those things, yeah? And especially if you look at 2007 or 2010, the NABU, when they started already, an NGO in Germany, Naturschutzbund, to make aware of ammunitions on the sea, yeah? And so keep that in mind, yeah? I mean, this was 2007, yeah? And the process started in 2000, it's 25 years ago. It's a quarter of a century ago where we talked about, and you're probably aware that the NGOs, you know, they are pretty much politically under pressure. Yeah, they are under pressure in Russia. They are unfortunately now under pressure in the US as well. Yeah, they are coming under pressure in Germany as well. And personally, it's my opinion, yeah, that they are not under pressure because they are wrong. They are under pressure because they are right, and they put it actually on the table. Yeah. So just, you know, this is a process for the last 25 years, and I've been on this stage and on different stages before, yeah, and you know, talking about ammunition on the sea, and I always ask for a change in the paradigm because, you know, we did a lot of UXO clearance in the oceans, yeah, but it was actually only because of for the industrial approach. So we needed a change of paradigm, not to clear the UXO actually only within the complex of new industry, but also in the complex of environment. And this took place actually at 2025, yeah, with the SOFORT program, and this is something absolutely new. It's brilliant, yeah. It's a new step forward, a new approach. So what basically happened to the UXO in the last 25 years? I mean, we did UXO clearance in areas where there is no UXO, yeah, because, you know, we did not clear the dumping areas. We cleared the pipelines, we cleared the cable routes, and usually 4% of the targets we find, we do interpretation on our UXOs. So I will come back later to that, yeah. So the complete UXO clearance we did was actually in areas where there is no UXO, and now it completely changed, it turned around. Now we start to clear UXO where the UXO has been dumped. So this was just a word up front, and so now diving a bit into the results. Yeah? So we have the main goals of the SOFORT program, and it never was actually the main goal to clear as much ammunition as possible, because to be honest, I mean, we cleared, yeah, we did our best, yeah, but if you relate it to the amount of UXO in the sea, it's just a drop on a stone. I don't know if this is the right picture in English, yeah, but it's actually not even a drop on a stone. Yeah. So what was it about? It was actually about survey and clearance of some areas, and it was about testing new equipment, survey and clearance equipment, to bring new methodologies and procedures into place to get a new standard of documentation and safety. And actually, we also had to cope with the authorities, and that wasn't on our agenda, but we learned quite a lot. Yeah. So where are we? Now going to the real world. Yeah? It's actually in the Lübecker Bucht. We've been at two spots. It's called Hafkrug and Pelzerhaken. And we started at Hafkrug, and this was an ammunition dump site which was actually covered with ammunition boxes, wooden boxes. And we did side scan sonar survey. The smaller one, HAF 0002, it's in the down corner. This was actually the ammunition dump site we've been worked on, and you already see actually that there is a bunch of wooden boxes on the seafloor. We expect about 1,500 something, and right next to it there's another spot, another dump site. And what we talk is actually, or what I know from Jens Greiner, what I've heard is that there are about 400 of those spots only in the Lübecker Bucht. Yeah? They have about approximately a diameter of 25 to 30 meters. And they also go down into the sediment. Yeah? So it's not just on the seafloor. We have to cope with a lot of soft sediment, and I will come back later to that. We also did multi-beam survey, so side scan sonar survey, multi-beam survey, and this on quite a big scale. Yeah. So let's skip this one. So there's one interesting thing I would like to show, and I've shown this before in another conference, so it's not very, very new to one of you or some of you. But actually, if you do the multi-beam and side scan sonar survey at Pelzerhaken, the area looks quite clean. Yeah, so you won't hardly see anything on the surface. Which gives the impression actually there is not that much of dumped ammunition. Yeah? But on the other side, if you bring the magnetic data behind the multibeam data, you already see, okay, there's something going on the surface. And when we started to do the survey, we actually, this is the MAC data, just 2 pieces of it actually. We had to do Pelzerhagen, one area, and another area over here in the red dots. So we did actually design DXF overlays around, yeah, in order to survey those areas within the boxes. But then we decided in a different way, and we said, okay, let's just put those boxes together to make one big box, because turning around all those slopes, this is actually time consuming. So we just went through and collected the MAC data, and this is actually the reality in between. And this is amazing. And to be honest, I mean, I cannot tell you that this is all UXO we are talking about. Yeah. So if you look at the anomalies within the red circles, these are actually the UXO, the defined UXO areas we had to clear. They've been visible on the surface. But what we've seen by doing the MAC survey in between is a huge area. I mean, we're talking about 1.5 to 2 kilometers in between. And so, this is a grid, an overlay of one area which was, we'd been dedicated to clear. And what you see in some points is actually that the MAC, the dipole for plus minus from the magnetic influence is much bigger. And this is possibly because it's in the soft sediment. So what we see on the surface might be just the tip of the iceberg, yeah? And then we talk about 6 meters of soft sediment, so it might be much wider on the surface. I mean, I've seen those sites, yeah, and I mean, I'm talking about UXO clearance in the sea since years now, and but seeing this in the real world, laying on the seafloor, it came up to my mind. It's just such a huge challenge. It's unbelievable. Yeah? So we got some data from the GeoMar, and we correlated the GeoMar data, which is already verified UXO on the seafloor, with our MAC data, and you can see on the left side it fits quite nicely. Yeah? So actually it's the same area, and then if you look at that data with a bit of a knowledge from the last years, I'm not sure if those lines are in. No. Okay. That you see this, what we call en route dumping, actually long lines from the periphery into the center, which indicates that actually the vessel went there and they already throw out all the UXO on the way. Yeah. So I'm not sure if every of these anomaly is a UXO or conglomeration, but we are talking about interpretations of plus minus 5,000 nanotesla for some huger anomalies. So it could be that there are possibly even barges. Just, they dumped the whole barge there. Yeah. Okay, to speed this up, we mobilized a platform on the Neptune Marine platform. It was a barge with spud legs, and we had a dive spread there, we had an RV there, and we had our special grabbers in there we designed for that project. We call them smart grabber. We attached light and sensors to it, and we had a feedback of the pressure, because we know we have to lift up wooden boxes, which means actually we adjusted the pressure from 5 kg to 250 kg, not in order to break the box, yeah, because usually you just open them and close them. So, but we had soft pads, yeah, to touch them and to see what's the pressure on the box. And this basically is, visible over here. So, there's a ring above this grabber system with sonar, with iris, with light, with camera. And we've been able to lift up the boxes one by one and move them into a basket. So that was the first step. So you see the basket, and it was, a process we need to, adjust under the running wheel, yeah. But at the end of the day, filling up a basket was about 25 minutes, yeah. So we have 6 to 8 boxes in there, and then actually with another grabber we lifted up those baskets and moved them up to the vessel. So actually, I mean, there have been different filters within, identification. I mean, you don't lift up UXOs just on board. Of course, there's a pre-identification, and then, there's lifting up those baskets. We leave them outside of the vessel. We have a visual inspection again, and then we bring it on board. We have another visual inspection, and then actually it's the first time an EOD picks up the ammunition. Yeah? So actually just to make the process more safe. And you know, these are the wooden boxes, and we've basically coped with 2 centimeter ammunition, which was a pain, yeah, because we didn't expect that. They are, I mean, in a way, really critical to work with, and you know, we cleared 6 tons of 2 centimeter ammunition, which is quite something, yeah. And we didn't had that on the, you know, on our bingo card, yeah. So we thought it's probably a bit bigger, so. You know, some 8.8 or some other grenades, yeah, or smaller grenades, but the 2 centimeter ammunition was quite challenging. So we opened up the boxes, we cleaned the ammunition, we took pictures and measurements. Oh, Jesus, no, it's going forwards and backwards. Just hang on. Yeah, and then and we set up a GIS database, yeah, and this is actually very important. So imagine we took a picture of each UXO, and then we feed the database and the description and the type of ammunition and everything we got out of this ammunition. This was to the database, and it got a number. So later on, when the UXO has to be stored in the wet store, yeah, so we know actually every piece of ammunition which is in one compartment, yeah, in the wet store. So the wet store is actually like a chess field, 20 by 20 meters. In the center point, there is this tube with the UXO, which is dumped again, ready for phase 2 to be picked up by the Vernichtungsplatform. And on the tube, there's a number, and if you click on the number, you see each piece of UXO in the tube here. So there's a complete documentation chain from the seafloor to the seafloor, so every piece of UXO is documented. And this is quite a scientific approach. I'm not sure if this is going to work or to happen in the future, because this was such a lot of work here for documentation and the GIS database and all the pictures behind. So this is actually on the left side, actually how it looked before, and this is due to the process. You see the baskets on the right-hand side. Yeah, you see, okay, we're going to empty this spot. And yeah, and then, you know, some impression, we had 100 of those wooden boxes, and not only 2 center ammunition, but also half fabricated stuff, yeah, which came out of the factory. Actually, you know, that the interesting thing is, and that was also new for us, or kind of new for us, was that, you know, there was a ammunition factory in Lübeck. I forgot the name. Uli knows it, yeah, to be honest. Yeah, but Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionsfabriken, and they've been in Lübeck. And obviously, the same boxes have been used for the Halbfabrikate. You know, we've got, you know, Zündhütchen, you know, this and that was just in there, which leads to the impression that they not only dumped the ammunition, but possibly when they've emptied the factories, yeah, you know, they put that in the same boxes they use for ammunition, which might add up to the number of ammunition at the end of the day, yeah, because so far we thought, okay, it's just, you know, the warehouses, yeah, which have been emptied, or it comes from the front, but if they emptied the factories, it probably sums up to that, yeah. So I'm speeding up. You know, on the left-hand side, you have those infrastructural projects. So we have about unexploded ordnance for one project. I mean, what we did is actually we looked at our projects. For the infrastructure projects, we have from 4 to 8% of UXO, and for the Sofort program, we had about 95% of UXO. Yeah, so this is actually difference actually in the approach. Yeah, so before we cleaned up areas where there was no UXO, but basically chunks. So we work for safety. Yeah, so wind farms, pipelines, cables. So this is all about safety. And on the right-hand side, clearing the ammunition dump sites. Yeah, this is all about environment, getting the stuff out. Yeah. And yeah, we had Rohrwaffenmunition. This is possibly not that much of importance, but this is actually a list of what we found in detail, you know, in percentage. So the most of it, of course, was Rohrwaffenmunition until up to 5 centimeters. And but an interesting point. Okay. Hang on. So if you want to make I've just seen you want to. Okay. The interesting point is actually, we evaluated the status of corrosion, and if you look at those pictures with the wooden boxes, they look quite nicely on the surface. But and we've been under the impression it gets better, if you go deeper, yeah, because there's not that much influence from the water, but it's completely the different way around. So the first level of the boxes was really good, even for the divers to pick them up, yeah, or for the first identification on the seafloor. But then, if you go deeper, the boxes are broken, yeah, because probably of the mechanic influence and the load on the wooden boxes, yeah, and waves and tidal movement. There's not that much tidal movement in the Baltic Sea, but then, so this was the second layer with broken boxes, and on the third layer, actually more or less, we had the 2 centimeters ammunition just openly on the seafloor, and below that, yeah, that it's probably 40 centimeters, 50 centimeters in the sediment. We have just meadow of a mixture of ammunition of broken 2 centimeters, yeah, where the explosive is just in the seafloor. And to be honest, when we've seen that, yeah, I mean, the diver came out and said, "This is devastating. This is terrible." Yeah, then the idea came up. Do we ever get everything out there? And I, meanwhile, looking at this and at the 25 years we have behind you, it's not wasting 25 years. It's, I mean, there was a lot of work here, but we could have started earlier. But, we will face the situation that there is also, we cannot recover anymore. I think this is a statement from my side. I mean, not with the equipment we have so far, yeah. I mean, I know, colleagues are working on that, yeah, but once the explosive is in the sediment and you have just a mixture of explosive and sediment and metal containments, yeah, then it's really, really getting hard. So we should speed up the process, yeah. We should stick to, a new budget. And, for the support program phase 1, it was 4 lots which have been given, and I'm asking for lot number 5, yeah, already, yeah, because we need to speed up that process. There is no reason to stop the clearance right now. We can do the clearance. We can just proceed. We don't have to wait for phase 2 and for the platform. So, and that's actually that's basically it so far from my side, because we're on panel. So.
Thank you very much. I love that hands-on inside. This is what it actually looks like on the ground, trying to remove this stuff approach. So we've got a pretty good set of ideas already on the panel coming out of these 3 presentations. One showing a kind of where things stand. Not just on a theoretical, but on an organizational sense, also from the history of how the approach to removing munitions has evolved, the funding, the programs, the legislation has moved through. Then we went in, looked at the platform, an industry platform that TKMS has been developing, to talking about scaling this up, how to work with that. And then we've also looked at the practicalities of what is actually happening on the seabed and the challenges that are involved in removing that on a practical level. I moderated this conference 4 years ago, and it's really interesting for me to see how we have moved forward, what has been learned, what lessons have been applied, but where things go from here, that's a big question now, and that's what we're addressing in this first panel. Unfortunately, our timing is again about 15 minutes behind. I need some sort of signal from our organizers as to whether we can go 15 minutes over with this panel, or whether we should try to trim a bit, maybe 5 minutes off of it, and begin our next session later. Maybe you can give me a signal at some point regarding that. But first, I'm going to put a couple of questions to the panel. These are based on the leading questions that we had agreed going when we were setting up this panel, which the organizers helped me with to formulate. And I'm going to make, those are very high, top level questions, very general questions about lessons learned, upscaling, what can we do. So I will put a couple of questions to the panel, and then we'll open the floor, because all of you in the room, and I'm really happy to see the room filled as it is, have lots of questions too, I'm sure. So my first question to the three panelists will be simply, what would you say are the primary lessons that have been learned from the pilot program that Germany has launched? This is focusing on the pilot program, bringing in your experience with the Sofort program, this immediate action plan program that has been implemented already. What can you say can be taken from that and is useful for scaling up, not just off the waters of Germany, but maybe for some of the other countries in the Baltic and beyond in the North Sea and beyond that as well? Let's start right here next to me. Yeah.
Sure. The micro's on? Yes, very well. I think there are three major points. And maybe we come to the term of long-term perspective in funding later on again. But I think the first thing is really that others get the motivation to get started. We've learned, we've seen, we've proven it's feasible to start. And for scaling up, I think the condition of the munition, the sensitivity of that what is recovered is really crucial. So those are the first data, the first learnings. Of course, there are more to come, which I think is very valuable information for others to adapt the process and to have a first estimate on scaling. And not at least, up to now, we have large figures of dumped munitions, and this would correspond to large figures of government or public money. I think what we will deliver is better estimates on how much will cost the remediation. So we have the first figures now, and we still have to say that identifying and recovering from the seabed to the incineration will be still a major part. But I think this is a matter of efficiency, scalability, effectiveness to be learned, to be automated as well. So I think we are very open to share those results with the other partners and really to motivate to tackle this issue, let's say on a European level at least.
Axel, let me phrase this maybe a little differently. This is a problem that you guys have been working on for a while. You're playing a pioneering role within a certain space inside of this larger challenge that we're facing in trying to remove the munitions. If say, I don't know, another Baltic state, and we've got many to choose from, we'll just say Sweden came to you, or anyone came to you and said, so what have you learned from this, from what's been done so far? What aside from, look, here's our boat, buy this boat, and then you can, this platform, it'll help you get it out. But what have you learned through this that others might be able to benefit from?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer because we are not part of the first pilot. So if another state is going into the lead, so we are open for that kind of discussion to promote that also to other countries. So that's part of the business case. But what I like to add to Wolfgang Sichermann's comment is I think we don't have the time to go a step-by-step sequence here. So we have to go more in parallel. So we learned a huge learning curve from the pilot one, and we will have a learning curve if we have a destruction platform, that's for sure. So, and if we are waiting and closing all the small issues, so we're coming never ever to the big point. So that's a statement to that.
All right.
Well, there are two major takeaways from my side. First of all, the basic steps for UXO survey and clearance operation is that you do geophysical survey. First, you do MEC survey, site scan, sonar, multi-beam, and then you start with the clearance after the interpretation. What we've seen from the dump sites, actually, that we do have to cope with a mixture of ammunition, which has a dedicated influence to the clearance spread. So, the clearance spread you bring into the field has to fit actually to the clearance side. Yeah, you need to address. It doesn't help if you've got smaller grabber systems or smaller RVs, yeah, and then you go to a dump site with airdrop bombs. Yeah. So The thing is actually, especially for the Baltic Sea, obviously we have a huge issue with soft sediments. Yeah? So what's on the surface, what's visible on the surface does not reflect the complete set of ammunition which is actually in the ground. And what I would suppose is to establish a new stage, yeah, or you know, a step in between the geophysics and the clearance process, to get a better understanding. Let's go down there with an RV, let's go down there up front with a diver to, you know, get a collection of, you know, what type of UXO, what's the status of corrosion, actually, what's the soft sediment situation. Wolfgang already mentioned it. I mean, at the first spot in Hafkrug, we had 7 meters of soft sediment, and we had a vessel with 30 meters butt legs and the water depth of 20 meters. I mean, you know, we thought, okay, we have got 30 meters of spud legs, we have a water depth of 20 meters. What should go wrong here? But then actually they just went down and down and down, and we looked at the spud legs, and at one point it was like, Jesus Christ, yeah, I mean, hopefully this stops at some point. So, you know, the geophysics actually, and it gives some indication, it gives good indication, and it comes out of the context of pipelines and cable and UXO clearance, you know, have an interpretation over here, have an interpretation over there, you know, move the vessel forward. But for those dump size, we need to adjust the clearance spread to what we see, and then we need to have a better understanding. So this is the first really important point from my side. And the second one is, I mean, some of you, you know, we had issues with authorities. It was not too bad. I mean, they've been pretty much involved, yeah. But you know, on the other side, if you have it on a regional or on a very low level, everybody has his mind. Yeah, I mean, we are talking about a huge project of UXO clearance and a huge challenge, and suddenly it comes down to one person possibly who has a certain opinion about safety and this and that, and then he's going to stop the process. And you thought, Jesus Christ, how happens? I mean, you know, how comes this? And this was a difficult situation personally for me. Yeah? But you know, there would be different regimes of law possible, yeah? The normal UXO clearance is done under the regime of Gefahr im Verzug, which means actually you go there, you do the job, you remove the UXO, and then job is done, yeah? And this was actually not the case for the support program. It was not Gefahr im Verzug, which actually did not open the door to deliver the ammunition just to the quay side, to widen up the Räum area. And I would say, if, you know, for this special task, actually, if the law doesn't fit to reality, you should not just stick into the reality, you know, and scale down the process and scale down the operation, and makes it much more difficult, but you have to adjust the law. So meanwhile, at the process, this is the last sentence, at the process, I was under the impression that actually not the UXO at the sea is the problem, but the companies who go there for clearance, they are the problem. So, you know, we have to change our idea of what's the problem and how do we approach it, yeah? Very important.
Thank you. Yeah, there are vast, you know, as we've already heard this morning, technical but also legal challenges surrounding all of this, and not to mention financial challenges, you know, budgetary part, who's going to pay for it all moving forward, and just with the 1.6 million tons that we're talking about in the smaller dimension. Of course, this can be when we're talking about scaling up, this panel is supposed to be about scaling up. So we're trying to understand what's been learned so far, because this, I don't know of any other example where this has been done on this scale already. So there are many countries that are looking at this and wondering, what can we do and how should we approach it? So that's what we're trying to get out of this panel. Until somebody stops me, I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to right now go ahead and bring in the people who are sitting in this room, the experts who can put together questions much better than I can for our three panelists. Now we have, I believe, someone with a microphone who's standing by who can give you the microphone. I hope there's someone standing by. I was told this would be the case, for delivering questions. If not, I will do my very best to hear and maybe repeat it. So if you would please just raise your hand when I recognize you. I hope someone will bring you a microphone. If not, I'll do my best to hear you and relay it to the room. Just identify yourself, direct your question to someone specific perhaps on the panel, that would be helpful, and then we'll move on. In the third row, a lady near on the aisle there. Yes. Oh, look. Thank you, Adrian.
Hello, Ms. Martin from the German Association for Marine Technology. A question to all. I think we do not have a knowledge problem, but we have an implementation problem. What do you think about it?
Implementation. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Who would like to tackle that? Wolfgang?
Sure, I'll start. Maybe. I think there's no knowledge problem. I totally agree. We're talking about will, about political will and will to achieve, and whether the parliament or the policy makers need to be, how you say, rewarded for their insistence and their activities, and they decide on promising topics. And for that reason, I think, although, as Alex said, it's some 20 years ago, I think we really have gained momentum. Not here in Germany. I was able to have attend to some talks in Brussels in February, last week in Nice. There's really awareness, and also looking at what is going on in Germany and whether we are able to overcome, let's say, those implementation problems, to overcome those regulatory obstacles. But as I said, I think for the site number 4 this year, we've learned a lot together with the authorities to prove it's let's say to remediate those obstacles on not a technological side. That's clear. And for that purpose, I would say yes. We have to keep the momentum. We get going, as the two colleagues said. Do not wait. But also we have to deliver good arguments and results to policymakers, really to put more money on the table.
So political will there, basically. Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Petra, I would also agree to that, what you said, because the issue is already there, and I think we should speed up more of that, what's already said. And if we like to do that, then we have to spend also more money for that. So every year we are losing money, in fact, of inflation and all the organization, all that stuff. So we have to come to the point to do something. So we have a lot of good ideas, especially for Germany. So we have problems, we have good ideas, we have good engineers, so we have good solutions. And quite often we failed the bigger step, and the bigger step are doing other. So just doing something or to do some parts. So to go parallel, for example, to go for long-term partnerships for different companies, for example. So there are some possibilities for the future, maybe.
Dr. Guldin, not a knowledge problem, implementation problem. What do you think?
Yeah, I can agree, of course. I mean, I don't know if this is a German thing, to be honest. Yeah? I mean, you know, we are so fast with many things. We are very good at solar, and at some point it stops, and then we are very good at wind energy, and then at sometimes we got a wind energy deckel, yeah, and to limit it, yeah. Or we build up brilliant cars, yeah, and then suddenly we mess up, yeah, to invent electro cars, yeah, and putting on all technology again, yeah. So, I mean, the talking is brilliant, and so far I'm really happy to see the process, yeah, and with a support program in place, yeah, and then actually it is a political decision at one point, yeah, to set up priorities. I mean, if you talk about oceans, everybody loves oceans. Everybody goes to swim, yeah, and everybody loves fishes. And I think cleaning up the oceans is actually something, you know, which is supported heavily in the society, and there is not that much opposition. You know, we don't have oil and gas lobby pushing against things. You know, everybody wants a clean ocean, so I think we are pretty good. We're online, yeah, but now it's a question of priorities. And I mean, to be honest, we have a lot of problems. Yeah, I mean, we have climate crisis, we have these and that, we have a war. You know, or actually, Ukraine has a war going on. Yeah, and the money is needed for weapons. Yeah, and so where. At the end of the day, it's about priorities, what can be paid. Yeah, we have plastic in the oceans, and UXO in the oceans is just one part of it. But on the other hand, Markus Söder in Bayern, yeah, did a renovation on the Blaue Grotte, yeah, which has some bit of water and a bit of music, and you know, you can go with the vessel forwards, backwards, and it was 70 millions, yeah, at the end of the day. So he spent for the Blaue Grotte, or 60 millions for the Blaue Grotte renovation, yeah. It's a bit of a, you know, it's a kind of priority thing making. So that's, yeah. I'm not 100% sure everything goes well so far. Yeah, I'm quite skeptical still. Yeah?
Do the seas have the right constituency representing them? Is a question that comes to me. How do you incentivize this process? I suppose it comes down to that too, in terms of money. And politically, how do you get governments, someone sitting in parliament or wherever, to say, oh, this is a topic for me, and I see a political win coming out of this if I'm an advocate for that? These are all questions I'm sure that are on the table. I see a hand being raised kind of halfway back. Adrian, thank you very much. A microphone is coming your way.
Thank you very much. Thomas Stock from company Dynasafe. The support program will lead into a hardware which will probably be able to cope with munition and munition destruction. The second question for me is, what will be happen after the platform is available? We have to talk about operation. And that's the second pillar, is we are already thinking about that operation means not only operation for a day or a week or a month. We have to have that in operation for years. And that will cost money. The question here, who is paying for it? That's my question to the panel. Maybe something can be said about that.
Yeah, well, actually, I said before, I think there are not so many alternatives. It will be public money. So the last agreements of the coalition have been mentioned, and the process is ongoing. And of course, it's not to address the technicians when and what, but however, of course, operation of this platform is crucial. And we, as I said before, and also to give some figures, we said we will need some 70 million each year, not only for the operation of the platform, but also to do the clearance in before. And this is something which has to be addressed also with the new government, now to be put somehow into the long or mid-term perspective of the financial fiscal planning. So, but maybe there are others to have to quote on this.
So 70 million a year is going to be needed to continue to operate the platform in German waters, I assume, or off the coast of Germany, mainly the Baltic Sea. Okay.
Yeah, well, the thing is actually that we need to invest more in personnel and in the capacity and the, you know, in the ovens. Yeah, I mean, to burn the ammunition at the end of the day. Yeah, so actually, what we're talking about now is let's say 1 or 2 or 3 vessels for the clearance process and 1 vessel for you know actually disposal. Yeah, so that would be possibly 70 million around. Yeah, if you roughly add up what's the day rate and then. This money has to be granted up front, so we need a clear statement for the next 10 years or for the next 20 years. And actually, if we work with one disposal platform, yeah, if you add up, if you sum up all the UXO which can be burned or which can be deposed, yeah, and you relate it, the 1.6 million tons, yeah, then it's a bit of a devastating counting forwards, backwards, or summing up. So it's probably also enlarging capacities. We might need another oven on land. Yeah? So, to decide, okay, this probably goes on land in Schleswig-Holstein somewhere, the military place, and then we have one leg in the sea for disposal, one on land, yeah, and then build up the infrastructure, and for that build up the infrastructure, we need a clear statement. Then, because it's not only just payment; it's also about personnel. Yeah, it's about EOD specialists, and they are not just growing on the field. Yeah, we really have to run around for them. Yeah, they're very those guys actually they are rare on the market. Yeah, so if we wanna tackle the clearance of ammunition dump sites in Baltic Sea and North Sea, we need to start with schooling those guys, with funding those guys, because for only for the platform we count about 30 EOD specialists. Yeah, you have 5 in one shift, 12 times 5 in another shift, it's 20. Yeah, and then you have the off time on the on time. It's already 20 or 30 EOD specialists. Where are they? I mean, we roughly have 10 and looking around all the time. Yeah? So we need a clear statement. Okay, we are going ahead for the next 10 years. Build up your resources. Yeah.
So this is all very closely related. This is scaling up. This all makes perfect sense. I'm really glad to hear us getting into the scaling up dimension. So we've got several things on the table already. I know there are at least 2 more questions in the room. One is a gentleman here in the front, and then I think I saw a hand there on the side. So we'll start here and then move over there. And Adrian, give me a signal. How much can I go over time? Okay, thank you. Good. Yeah. Sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Henning von Nordheim, University of Rostock, and also speaking for the NABU as a representative of NABU. A question to all speakers, as you in your last presentation very much described the second pilot phase with the platform, and the conservation side, nature conservation side, was always in favor of course, having this platform as a place where we can destroy ammunition without explosive measures. What role will play the destruction capacities on land and building up capacities on land in face of these immense amounts of ammunition that we have in the water?
That's a pretty specific question then regarding land-based final destruction of material. Anyone wish to address that?
So the first thing is our concept is on the water, because in the future we see there a lot of automation to run that platform, to go or to get not rid of personal stuff, but to have just a small stuff on such a platform. So we saw from the beginning the issues with the authorities. So to move 1.6 million or maybe 100,000 tons during normal road traffic, some tunnels, harbors, and all that stuff. And also we know from R&D researchers that the munition is also not the same as 70 years ago. So the ingredients changed during the war, so somebody has to take the responsibility to move the munition on land. So, and we think that's a really critical part, and that was one of the decisions to go with such a destructive platform offshore, to use it or to dispose it there. So, regarding the question, land-based or offshore.
I believe you were talking about both being needed on the platform destruction and onshore. So this question was more onshore.
Yeah, I mean, just for information, I mean, we have Munster, of course, yeah, but the issue is to transport the ammunition on the road, yeah, just for those who are not, familiar with the situation, yeah, we cannot transport the ammunition from the Baltic Sea or from the North Sea to the Elbe Tunnel every day. I mean, there would be lorries and lorries of lorries going through the Elbe Tunnel, and this is actually not possible. So I personally think we need more capacities onshore as well, yeah, so it needs to be both, yeah, I mean, disposal of ammunition on the sea is a complex process. It's a brilliant idea. I love it, and we probably need 3 spreads, yeah, and to work in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern at the same time than at the Lübecker Bucht, because working at the Lübecker Bucht will take ages. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about 3 years. We are talking about probably 10 years or 15 years. So shall Mecklenburg-Vorpommern wait for that process going on? So I would say put another oven in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and in Schleswig-Holstein, and probably a platform which is a kind of mobile system which can be built up on another place 15 years later or 10 years later, which is kind of adaptable, and then things like that. Yeah. I think the capacity-wise, actually, it's a needle's ear at the moment, yeah, the disposal, and we need to stay on both legs. Yeah.
So, a question from the corner there. Adrian is proving to be very fleet-footed.
But just a small comment to
Sure.
capacities onshore. In the past, we have companies for destructive of conventional munition going bankrupt and closed their factories because there was no business case.
Yeah. Sir?
My name is Andriy Sirko. I'm one of the 2 Ukrainians who are here with the camera project. We are in charge of securing perimeter and doing the surveillance and patrol in the secure area. Talking about priorities, the one compliment and one question. The compliment is some degenerates starting, sponsoring, and pushing the wars, and then the bunch of other normal people acting within the war irresponsibly, and as a result of the war, dumping in the sea. And the dumping not only related to the war, we have long history. So the compliment is you guys are prioritizing very well. I'm very proud to be part of this initiative because I've been on the not dumping side, but littering side for 3.5 years with Ukrainian military. And frankly, the amount of the crap that the Russians are throwing and the quality of the munition that they're using is such that 30 to 40% of that is diving in the black soil, and it will take hundreds of years to dig it out and deal with it. Not as much on the sea, thank you to our drones, but for sure it's a big problem that is being built. But what I'm saying is that we have dumped so much and keep dumping on the sea so much, and that specific issue is so burning that you guys are pioneers, and you are teaching the world to think before they look for simple solutions. Now, the question about priorities. I am not chemical engineer. I don't understand exactly the chemical side of things. And yesterday we had discussion. I think everyone is a bit low on that side, understanding of the chemical processes.
We're a little pressed for time, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
sure.
If you could get to your
question
question,
is,
sir.
can we prioritize? And because I don't think cartridges to the machine guns is the priority. Because of the gunpowder, it's I think a simpler chemical solution. TNT is much so 1 ton or 500 kilogram airplane bomb is much more important target, especially if the casing is intact, and therefore you can lift up hundreds of kilograms of TNT. Can we prioritize that? Would that be a smart approach?
I think this is definitely necessary. And we have various types of ammunitions, of course, those large marine ammunition with very thin shells, maybe not even steel, but other metals, which corrode very fast, pose the greatest threat. So even always when the explosives are directly exposed to the seawater, and there are many cases where you have pure explosive, you also observe the highest concentrations and also the highest enrichment in the food in the marine chain. So I think this would be the feasible approach to start this problem, to look at the hotspots where the explosives are already directly exposed, and then you have thick-walled ammunition which could rest a little longer than those thin walls with a high explosive content, as you said. Yes.
Yeah, to be honest, I see it in a different way. Yeah? You're completely right. Yeah? But anyway, if you look at UXO clearance in Germany, where did it start? It started in the cities. It started in the industrial areas because it was needed over there. Yeah, I mean, the country itself. Your needs are defining where you start with. I mean, I know from Ukraine. The waterways are pretty much critical, yeah, to get the vessels, into place and doing, so open up the streets, open up the waterways, and then it's not defined to the type of ammunition, it's defined to what's the most critical areas, where do we need actually, to have areas UXO free and set up the priorities up to this line and not to the type of ammunition, because if you're able to sort out the type of ammunition as we do in Germany and in the Baltic Sea, this is a luxury position, to be honest, and you're not in a luxury position, you're in a devastating position. Yeah, I mean, with this full-scale war. Yeah? So I would advise do prioritize in a different way, not along the UXO, but along your needs country-wise. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very sensible. Based on experience, it makes sense, of course. If that's in your way and it's blocking something, whatever it is, you want to get rid of it. Sure.
Yeah, I just one more sentence.
We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, this is actually the reason why UXO clearance on the sea, starts so late, basically in 2010 or 2008. I mean, the Army did quite a lot, or Navy did quite a lot before, but actually the sea was not needed. Yeah, so nobody expected that we need the sea. That was the reason to dump the ammunition over there, because they said, okay, just put it in the sea. Nobody cares. Yeah, so they hadn't in mind that times are changing. Yeah? So that's exactly why there are no procedures in place. Why they're not, we have everything to invent from scratch, and then we adopt the land UXO clearance methods to the sea, which is rather a problem. Yeah, but that's exactly the reason behind it.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks for the questions too. Just a quick roundup. Again, this conference is taking place for the second time. The first time it was held 4 years ago. It was held 4 years ago before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which changed many things. Right? We're now operating in a different environment where also a lot more munitions are being put into the sea that creates that is really hard to imagine, but it's good to be reminded of that this is not just a problem from the past, this is a problem from today as well, and that other countries are looking to Germany to see what comes out of these programs and what Germany does in trying to address this problem. So there's the political dimension, there's the legal dimension, there's the budgetary dimension, there's priorities that need to be set. They're vastly complex things, but I think there's a learning process that's going on within Germany is what I get this impression. And there are different approaches. We're coming up with organizational ideas on how to deal with this. We're trying to address the budgetary problems. And I think there are genuine lessons that are being learned that other countries are going to benefit from. Germany itself is also at the beginning of this process, even though it's been going on now for a couple of decades, but it's gaining momentum, and there's a sense that we're learning as we go along, and progress is being made, and there's progress on the horizon. It's going to be a multi-platform solution, if you will, land-based maybe, and sea as well. There's room for a lot of development still. I want to thank our three panelists and our audience, all those who asked questions. I'm sure you have more questions. We've got 9 panels here over the course of the next 3 days, so you'll have opportunities to talk to others as well. I'm going to hand over to my colleague now, who is going to introduce an expert presentation session, of which we have several over the next 3 days as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Alex Valenti. First, a warm round of applause for our speakers. Thank you.